Hello and good evening, everyone. Today's webinar topic is Will, a tool for securing financial wealth. So, for this, we have with us Mohini Mahadevia ma'am. For over 12 years, Mohini Mahadevia has been the trusted guide for more than 150 families on their financial journey. Her practice, initially rooted in personal finance, has evolved to master the intricate world of estate planning, serving a diverse clientele which includes individuals, families, UHNIS, and corporates, peers for peers from her own industry in B2B partnerships. Mohini's guidance is backed by her qualification as a certified financial planner, LLB, and chartered trust and estate planner. She is also an established educator, sharing her knowledge with prestigious institutes like Network FP and elite colleges in Mumbai. She has a passion for creating accessible content that demystifies money management and legacy planning for all in various formats. Now, a short glimpse about NISM. NISM is a public trust established in 2006 by SEBI, the regulator of the securities markets in India. The institute carries out a wide range of capacity building activities at various levels, aims at enhancing the quality standards in securities markets. Now, before beginning the session, I would like to request all the participants to note some important points. First, question will be taken at the end during the Q&A segment. Second, all participants will receive a participation certificate within 3 to 4 working days. Third, the recording of the session will be available on NISM YouTube channel. Now I request Mohini ma'am to begin with the session.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for sparing time to attend this session. I am going to quickly start without wasting any further time. All right. So, before we start with the session, I think I would really like to set some expectations right. You all are all spending 1 hour with me today. So at the end of this session, what is it that you're going to walk away with? हम लोग क्या ऐसी चीजें नई सीख के या समझ के जाएंगे at the end of this session? So my first and top, foremost objective is that there are a lot of myths and misconceptions. काफी गलतफहमियां होती है जो हमें wills या तो estate planning के related रहती है. I want to try and dispel all of those myths. We will be tackling it one after the other. My second objective for today's session is to try and make you all understand how the succession laws in our country work. So, कोई भी चीज होती है, anything within civilization, जहाँ पे human interaction होता है, जहाँ पे पैसे involved होते हैं, all of those are governed by different types of laws. So, there is a set of laws which also applies to your assets. So, what happens to your assets after you pass away, उसके लिए जो भी sets of laws है, हम लोग थोड़ा briefly उसके बारे में भी discussion करेंगे. Next, what are the components of a valid will? ठीक है, अगर आप समझ गए इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ ऑफ मेकिंग अ विल, दैट इज नॉट इनफ, बट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि करेक्ट तरीके से विल कैसे बनता है, उसमें क्या क्या चीजें होती है जो इन्वॉल्व करनी पड़ती है, दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी विल ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड. There is always a devil's advocate, right? If there is any argument that we are making, there's always a question that, okay, what if I do not choose to do this? So in context of today's session, if you do not choose to make a will, what happens in that situation? What happens to your assets? What does your family have to deal with? So हम लोग वो भी discuss करेंगे. And last but not the least, nomination versus will. I'm very sure a lot of you already might be having these questions. So मेरी कोशिश ये रहेगी कि before we reach the Q&A section, हो सके उतने questions हम लोग through the mode of this presentation ही answer कर ले. And of course, we'll leave the last few minutes to discuss any other additional questions. So firstly, if we can, maybe have a few of you answer what comes to your mind when you hear will. अगर आप अपने chat box में, if somebody is just willing to sort of give your inputs, I've put a few points on screen based on my interaction with my clients. But आप जब भी word will सुनते हो, what comes to your mind? I'm just going to read out a few things. Peace of mind, preservation of wealth and succession, okay. और कोई है जो contribute करना चाहेगा? Inheritance, succession planning, transmission without any hassle, okay, great. Transfer of wealth, somebody saying allocation of property, solutions to assets, for all assets to next generation, property planning, inheritance. So ये सब में मैं एक चीज कॉमन जो देख रही हूँ, अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल फील दैट प्रॉपर्टी होना, मतलब कोई भी तरीके का फ्लैट, बिल्डिंग, लैंड वगैरह होना, या तो वेल्थ होना, या तो सम सॉर्ट ऑफ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ अ ह्यूज चंक ऑफ एसेट्स. Okay, so that is what is generally in people's mind. There are a lot of people, you will yourself will come across such people aapke within your family, within your friends, who have some apprehensions with regards to what wills are. So based on the answers that I've gotten, it is fair to say that there are people with a mixed opinion. There are some people who have a view, some people who have a slightly more clear understanding of what a will is about. One thing to remember, as you can see on the screen, is our perception about wills is often shaped by family stories, media portrayals, cultural influences. Now, मैं ये क्यों बात कर रही हूँ? There are cases where समझिए in your family or in your extended family, आपने कोई एक किस्सा देखा है जहाँ पे कोई एक इंसान ने या तो विल नहीं बनाया है एंड उनके प्रॉपर्टी के रिलेटेड बहुत सारे डिस्प्यूट्स हो रहे हैं. That is the only case you have seen very closely. So, आपका थॉट प्रोसेस पूरा टूवर्ड्स विल हो जाएगा कि नहीं, अगर विल नहीं बनाया तो ये प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. Whereas a friend of yours who has had a different example, maybe उनके केस में किसी ने फैमिली में विल बनाया है, बट बिकॉज ऑफ सम प्रॉब्लम कोई चीजें अटक गई है, या तो देयर इज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ डिस्प्यूट. बिकॉज दैट इज द ओनली थिंग यू सी इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू, आपका परसेप्शन चेंज हो सकता है. यू मे फील दैट विल इज नॉट फॉर मी, विल से प्रॉब्लम होता है, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. सो टुडे विल जस्ट एक्सप्लोर व्हाट आर दीज काइंड ऑफ issues. I'm sorry, I think the slide is, yeah. Okay. What are the some issues and barriers which are there in people's mind? So do you think that do you need to make a will? If we can maybe have some of y'all again respond yes, no. आप लोगों में से किस किस को लगता है कि आपको will बनाने की जरूरत है? We have one yes. Okay. Okay, we have a lot of yeses. Amazing. 5 or 6 yes. Great. Somebody saying everyone. Superb. So we have a very evolved kind of an audience today, but there could be objectives. Okay, somebody's asked any alternatives. Good question. We'll cover it as we go, ahead. So if I understand, if I am to sort of summarize क्या क्या ऑब्जेक्शंस या तो क्या क्या रिजर्वेशंस आते हैं लोगों के व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट मेकिंग अ विल. देयर माइट बी फैमिली मेंबर्स हु are required to make a will. You're trying to have a discussion with them, but there are some objections or some apprehensions which they have. So many Indians believe that wills are only for the elderly. If you talk to a young person about making a will, they will say, I'm too young to make a will. Why should I right now, look at getting into all this? I will do it after I am 60, 70 years old. There are some people who believe that wills are only for ultra wealthy people. Only if you have 10, 12 properties, you have crores of rupees of wealth, only then you need to think about will. This is the second thought that a lot of people have. Next, people believe that families that have complicated assets, बहुत सारे joint holders है, too many people within the family who are trying to inherit the assets. Those are the situations where a will is required. And last, and in fact, this is the most common reason which I've gotten from a lot of my clients that why their family members are not willing to make a will is that we trust our family. I don't think I need to make a will because I trust my kids. They will deal with everything maturely. But the reality of the situation is very different from this. A will is relevant for anybody who cares about how their assets should be distributed after they pass away, and anybody who wants to secure their family's finances. Sorry, I think the slide has gotten stuck. Yeah. Okay. So before we get into the technicalities of a will, let's try and understand the Indian society context, right? Because law, like legal provisions and social aspects often go hand in hand with regards to money matters specifically. So there are some very particular situations or features that are a part of our Indian society, which make it slightly more important for us to address will making. Firstly, joint family dynamics. So we still have a lot of families where not only do they live under the same roof, not only are the assets owned by family together, but businesses and family finances are also joined. There is no clear distinction about who owns the assets. So, for example, there could be maybe 5 people living in the same household. There's one source of income which is from a common family business, but there is no clear distinction. So tomorrow, if there is one person who passes away, this complex structure can make it very difficult for the surviving family members to understand and decide कि कौन से assets किसको distribute करने हैं. Next, superstition and taboo. Say no evil. There are a lot of people who get scared to talk about things like death and will. Right? शुभ शुभ बोलो. That's one thing that we all commonly say. कि ऐसी सब बातें क्यों करनी है? Right? Nobody wants to accept the fact that life is limited. At some point in time, we are all going to have to say goodbye to this world. And by delaying this discussion, you're doing nothing but injustice to your family. Next reason why people hesitate is fear of conflict. Today, if I am making a will, and if I feel that my kids are going to think that I don't trust them, or if one of my children feels that I'm favoring the other child over him or her, that is a very real fear which a lot of people have. फैक्ट ऑफ द मैटर इज ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को आप इग्नोर या तो अवॉइड करने के लिए अगर विल नहीं बना रहे हो, यू आर डूइंग बिगर इनजस्टिस, बिकॉज you can at least by way of a will make your wishes known. If you do not have that in place, the family is going to end up not understanding what your wishes were, and which can lead to conflict. Next, wealth misconceptions. Like I said earlier, a lot of people believe that only very wealthy people need wills. When in fact, and a lot of you all rightly said, anybody and everybody who holds any kind of assets need to make a will. Next, again, one of the very common things, age bias. I'm too young to make a will is what a lot of prospective clients tell me. In today's day and age, in the last few years specifically, where we have seen that without any health history, without any clear cause, a lot of young people are also losing their lives. We've seen the entire duration of COVID where there were young families where in fact both parents sort of passed away in a span of a few days. None of these people had any pre-existing diseases, any pre-existing conditions, but we live in a world where uncertainty is the only thing which is constant, and we need to prepare for it. So these are some of the cultural aspects. Even when you're trying to have this as a family discussion at home, these are some of the objections that you might face at home while trying to have this discussion. There are some technical words or terms which I'm trying to first discuss before we move ahead. ये कोई बहुत भारी legal चीजें नहीं है. However, it is important that you understand these words क्योंकि when you talk about will making, these words are very commonly used, right? First and foremost, estate. So मैं जब भी बोलती हूँ कि will making is a part of estate planning, तो ये estate क्या है? Is estate real estate? No. Estate is the sum total of a person's assets, properties, investments, and any possessions that they have at the time of death. मेरी पूरी लाइफ में मैंने जो भी assets या तो खरीदे हैं, I have either purchased these assets or I have inherited these assets, somebody has gifted me these assets, all of these put together, जो भी मेरी जमा पूंजी है पूरी लाइफ की, all of that put together is called as estate. And estate planning means nothing but having a plan in place about what happens to these assets after you. The second terminology I want to discuss is succession. Succession is the process by which the ownership of a deceased person's property is transferred to legal heirs. So if I am the person in question, after my death, whatever assets belong to me, the passing on of those assets to my legal heirs, people who have a right to get those assets from me, that process is called as succession. The next terminology I want to discuss is testamentary succession. So the word testamentary is very, very commonly used when you talk about wills. So the distribution of assets according to a deceased person's will is called as testamentary succession. If somebody is saying that a person's assets are undergoing testamentary succession, it means that the person who passed away had made a will, and based on that will, these assets are now being passed on to other people. And there is another type of succession, which is called as intestate succession. So any person who passes away, and had not made a will during their lifetime, it's not that their assets disappear, right? Agar if मैंने घर खरीद के रखा है and I have not made a will and I pass away, the house doesn't disappear. The house still exists. It still has to be passed on to other members within my family. However, the way in which it is done is not as per a will, but it is as per succession laws, which we will also be discussing briefly. And coming to the main point or the main terminology for which we are all attending this webinar is a will. A will is a legal document specifying how a person wants their assets distributed after death. Okay. A written set of instructions detailing how your assets, property, and wealth should be distributed after your death. So first things first, take that thing out of your mind that a will is a very complex, heavy legal document. Okay, let's break it down simply. One, it is a written document. Two, it is going to have details about your estate, your assets, your wealth, your investments. And three, it is going to have instructions about how these assets should be distributed and to whom after you are no longer in this world. It's a voice. It is a voice which stays back after you're long gone from the world. It allows you to keep making decisions about your assets even after you're gone. It is a gift. A properly drafted will saves your loved ones from confusion, delays, and potential conflicts. As we move ahead and as time permits, I will share a few real life examples of things that my clients have gone through to make you understand why it is important to have a will. And lastly, it is protection. It ensures that vulnerable family members receive the support that you intend for them. No family has everything, at an equal level. अपनी पांचों उंगलियां सब अलग-अलग size की होती है. There are some family members who are extremely strong-headed, who are extremely in control of their life. They take care of everything. And there are some family members who, because of age, because of maybe no exposure to the real world, because maybe they never really had a chance to explore some things, or sometimes due to health reasons, may need extra care to be given to them. They may not be in a position to take what is theirs. So to ensure that they are safe and they are financially secure, it is important that you have a will. Now, what happens without a will? So let's start with the counter question first. कि अगर मैंने will नहीं बनाया, not everybody makes a will, right? I mean, the fact that you all are attending this session here, it possibly means that most of you all do not have a will in place. So your assets don't disappear, right? There is something which will happen to your assets after a person passes away. There is something called as intestate succession. So in India, how succession works is either you have a will, or in the absence of a will, there are certain personal laws which are applicable. These personal laws are according to the religion that a person follows. So there is a set of laws and principles which are applicable to Hindus. There is a certain set of laws and principles which are applicable to Muslims. And there are some different laws and principles applicable to Christians and Parsis. I do not think I want to delve very deeply into each of these, but what I will do is I will just touch upon some of the problematic aspects under each of these. So if you are a person who is thinking whether you need to make a will or no, and you fall under any of these categories, I'll try to cover some points which will tell you कि अगर, if you don't end up making a will today, how your assets are going to be treated. So we'll start with Hindu law. How assets are divided under Hindu law is that there are categories of your family relatives. Okay, there are 4 different categories within which your entire set of relatives is divided. Okay, each of these are called as classes. There is class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. Depending on how close or near in relation that relative is to you, they fall into each of these separate segments. So if you have even one or more class 1 legal heirs, then whatever assets you have are all going to go to them. Depending on how your family structure is, if maybe you don't have any class 1 heirs, legal heirs, एकदम close family members agar nahi hai, then it goes to the second, like the class 2 legal heirs, so on and so forth. Who is covered under class 1 legal heir? For a Hindu man, class 1 legal heir includes spouse, kids, and mother. So if you're a Hindu man who is contemplating whether or not, you should be required to make a will, you need to understand that in the absence of a will, these are the people within whom your assets are going to be divided. And if you're a Hindu woman, this basically, if you are married, it basically covers your spouse and your kids. And if you're not married, then your entire class 1 legal heirs are not there. So then we will talk about parents, siblings, etc. Okay, so having a will in place basically helps to control which of these relatives, which of these family members you can leave your assets to. There are times where women are nowadays, in fact, taking a lot of financial responsibility and taking care of their parents. But in the case of a Hindu woman, if she is married and she passes away without a will, by, under Hindu law, her parents will not have access to most of her assets. There are some exceptions, but basically, it becomes difficult for you to take care of them or provide for them after you are gone. Okay. Under Muslim law, there are in fact a lot further segregations based on the different subcastes or different sects within which the person who is following Islam falls. There are a large number of relatives which are covered under the distribution pattern. So it is not restricted only to your immediate relatives, not just your spouse and your kids. Okay. And there are restrictions in terms of who receives how much. So typically, sons within the family receive twice the share of what daughters get. Okay. It's a relatively more complex structure. It's not as simple as a straight line. However, one thing to remember is that there are restrictions with regards to who can inherit how much. If, for example, if you want that your assets should be given only to your wife and one of your kids, for example, then the need to make a will is even more. In fact, there are a few other complex factors also which come into the picture. If we have time towards the end of the session, I will surely delve into it. But the thing here which I'm trying to draw as a parallel between both of these is that the absence of a will takes away the control from you. If these are your assets, you should be the one deciding who the assets should be given to, not the law. And in the case of Christians and Parsis, there is the Indian Succession Act, which has specific rules. So there are rules if the person is married and the spouse is surviving, and there are different rules if there is no surviving spouse. Normally, in such cases, if there are kids involved, the surviving spouse gets 1/3 of the estate, and the remaining assets are divided by the kids or grandkids. Okay. Again, the fundamental problem, even under this, is that the control that you have over your assets goes away. Just because all of these family members exist, it doesn't mean कि आपको आपके सब assets सबके within everybody divide करने हैं. Right? There might be some family member जिसका आपको financially ज़्यादा ध्यान रखना है. There might be some family members जिनको आपको कुछ नहीं देना है. That you want to exercise control over who gets your assets. If you don't exercise that control, the law decides on your behalf, and it can end up being restrictive, and it can end up being unfair to some family members. Okay, now let's quickly go through why making a will is essential and what objectives it helps you to fulfill. Firstly, your assets, your responsibility. I'm a very strong believer of this. You spend your entire life working so hard, whether it is job, it is business, it is some other form of service, whether you are a professional, whatever it is that you're doing, आप पूरी जिंदगी लगा देते हो इतने पैसे कमाने के लिए. You sacrifice your requirements, you sort of sometimes neglect your health. जो assets आप build up कर रहे हो, if you've spent so much time creating those, it is your responsibility to make sure that you have a plan in place for transferring it or distributing it after you're gone. You cannot leave that onus on your family members. Second and most important is protect the vulnerable. There could be minor children in your family. There could be aged parents or other aged relatives in your family. There could be family members who have physical or mental deficits because of which they are not perfectly capable of handling their own financial needs. So maybe some of these family members may not be able to fight to get what their right is. In this situation, having a will is the only way you can protect their interests. Next, it prevents family conflict. So contrary to what a lot of people believe that will banane se jhagde hote hai, why do I have to choose my within my family and within my kids? Let the kids take their own decision. In fact, this is known to help to prevent family conflicts. Today, when I put my wishes down in writing, I am making it very clear what my intention was with regards to my property or my other assets and investments. So when my family, after my demise, when they are looking at the process of transferring the assets and trying to decide कौन सा asset किसको जाएगा, having a written set of instructions more often than not really helps to avoid miscommunication or confusion or people feeling left out. Next, it simplifies procedures. A will helps to streamline asset transfer and it reduces the bureaucratic hurdles for your grieving family. There are some situations where just having a will in place and showing certain authorities that there is a will which is existing helps to speed up the transfer of assets a lot. In the absence of a will, also you can transfer these assets, but the process is a little longer and sometimes ends up being very tedious. Next, honor the true wishes. If you have left a set of your wishes behind you, the family really gets a chance to honor what your financial commitments, what your family and emotional commitments were. If you want a specific family member to be properly taken care of, it could be a distant aunt or an uncle, it could be a grandparent, it could be a nephew, it could be a niece. जिनका अंडर सक्सेशन लॉज जो मैंने प्रीवियस स्लाइड्स में दिखाया, मे बी दोज पर्सनल लॉज डोंट काउंट देम एज इमीडिएट फैमिलीज, but having a will in place helps to make sure that their safety is also protected and your wishes are honored. And lastly, and this is something that a lot of people are much more open to, which is tax benefits. जहाँ पे tax बच सकता है हमें बचाना है, right? Strategically planning your estate can help reduce the tax burden. In India at this point, we don't have estate tax or inheritance tax. पहले के जमाने में ये हुआ करता था where if you inherit some assets, you have to pay tax on it. Right now, these laws don't exist. Maybe in the future they might exist, but we have to work with what we have right now. So from a tax perspective, it might be a little better for you to pass on your assets to your child by way of a will instead of giving it like a gift during your lifetime, right? Now, what are the components of a valid will? See, these are non-negotiable conditions, आप बोल सकते हो, in a way it is like a condition. These are components of a will in the absence of which the will has no value. Even one of these things not being in place makes the will entirely invalid. So I want you to pay a little more attention to this. Firstly, written format. Handwritten or typed is okay. You can write it in your own handwriting on, using a pen on a regular paper also. There are some situations where oral wills are allowed in the case of, certain people from the defense forces. But there are very, very specific conditions which are applicable, which is why I'm not going into those details. But typically, a will needs to be in writing. There is no real need to put it on a stamp paper. Even a normal paper is okay. Next, it has to be properly signed. Okay, by what I mean by properly signed, there has to be a proper clear signature or a thumb impression of the person who is making a will. So testator is a word which we use for the person who is making a will. अगर मैं मेरा will बना रही हूँ या तो आप आपका will बना रहे हो, that person is called as a testator. And in the case of a female, she is referred to as a testatrix. Okay, so at the end of the whole document, there has to be a clear signature which is legible, which is not faded out. या तो pencil से किया है वगैरह नहीं. It has to be in clear ink. A will always has to be witnessed. So if I just write on a piece of paper that my flat goes to my child XYZ, my bank account goes to my husband ABC, and I sign it, that is not a valid will. Along with my sign, there have to be two people minimum who have to become witnesses to the will. So while you write down your will and you sign it, there will be two people who will sign alongside it, and they will make a declaration which says that we, both of us, are witnesses to the will. Mohini has made her will today. We have seen her sign this will in front of us, and we are witness to that. Okay, so this is very, very important. If there is no witness, the will is not valid. Next, clear intent. Now, explicit testamentary intention to transfer assets upon death. What is the meaning of this? I'll give you a very slightly funny, but it's a possible example. Tomorrow, imagine a situation where I am sitting and spending time with a nephew or a niece, and there is a sudden surge of emotions. I just love my nephew or my niece a lot, and I end up saying, okay, I love you so much. जो भी चीजें मेरी है वो सब तेरी है, ये मेरा घर तेरा है, मेरा पैसा तेरा है. I just end up saying that, or maybe I just end up writing this as a text message, WhatsApp message, and sending it to maybe my sibling or a friend or somebody. This does not mean that I have the intention to give away all my assets to that person. This is just a form of expression. When you are making a will, there is a clear intent that after my death, my assets should go to these people. So this intent is called as testamentary intent. Testamentary intent is nothing but your intention to distribute your assets in a certain way after you have passed away. So just saying, I will give you this, or just saying, my asset is yours, is not enough. It has to be very, very clearly expressed. Next, free consent. A will should be written without any force, coercion, or under influence. Okay. So you threatening a family member to make a will does not make it a valid will. The person might sign it, but the person is doing it not out of their own free will, not out of their own free mind. They are doing it because they are either emotionally burdened, or they are scared, or they feel responsible towards you, and which is why they are writing their will. There are times where people who are not in the best of health, their wills have come out. So there is a very clear conflict here, or you can say an objection which can be raised, that the person was not in his or her correct sense of mind. If you are under heavy medication, if you are not in good physical, like good mental health, physical health is still okay, your mind might still be alert. But if you're not in good mental health, you're not properly conscious, you are being forced by somebody, threatened by somebody. Under these circumstances, if you have written a document which you want to call your will, it is not going to be valid. And lastly, legal capacity. Any person who is of sound mind and is of legal age. बच्चे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में एंटर कर सकते हैं क्या? बच्चे जाके डॉक्यूमेंट साइन करके घर खरीद सकते हैं? नहीं. सिमिलरली बच्चे विल्स भी नहीं बना सकते. Once you cross the age of 18, you are legally allowed to make a will. Now, these are some other critical will considerations. These are other points or other situations that you might come across. Firstly, appointment of an executor. Every will needs to have one person who is appointed as the executor. Okay. This person's job is basically to implement your wishes or instructions as per the will. If there is no executor, for example, it doesn't mean कि आपका will valid नहीं है. Okay, the will is still valid, but the process after the person's death changes a little, and the court will appoint somebody to actually execute your requirements as per the will. So it is a very good practice to appoint an executor. This person should be somebody who's close enough to the family to actually care, because इनका काम रहेगा to distribute the assets based on the will. So if it is somebody who doesn't really care about you or your family, or has no interest whatsoever, he or she is not going to end up doing a good job. Next, modifications and updates. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने लाइफ में एक बार will बनाया and that's the end of the story. Life situations change, assets can change, there can be new members coming into the family, there could be people that are born, people that pass away, all of which require changes in your will. So these changes can either be done by way of modification documents, which are called as codicils. Okay, that's the technical word, codicils. Or they can be done by just destroying the old will and creating a new one. Next, common contestation grounds. Now, contestation means anybody who raises any objection. Okay, so there are certain grounds. कोई भी आके ऐसे नहीं बोल सकता है object to the will. Okay, there are only some categories of people who can object to the will, and there are only certain specific grounds on which you can object to a will. So what are these common grounds? These grounds can be based on the person who is making the will, matlab the testator, their mental capacity, on the basis of undue influence, improper execution, or fraud. These are some of the major grounds on which all disputes regarding wills happen. Okay, so एक बार आपने will बना लिया उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि उसके बाद कुछ करना ही नहीं है. There are other procedures which come into the picture even after the person passes away. And yes, there are situations where somebody can object to the will, but they can't just object it because they feel like it. Okay, they can object to it on these grounds. So one of the objections could be that the person was not in a mental capacity to make such an important document. Another objection could be the person was forced, or the person was under the influence of either alcohol or some other substance or heavy medication. Or it could be that the will has not been correctly made. Maybe it has not been signed correctly. Maybe the witnesses have not signed, etc. Or fraud, कि किसी ने somebody has sort of fraudulently copied somebody's signature, forgery. Having some sort of professional guidance in making a will can help to remove most of these possibilities. It's still, there is no situation where there can be zero objections. People can still raise objections, but you can oppose and successfully challenge those objections. Next, post-death process. So specific cases where there are real estate properties which are held in the cities of Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai, and in some other specific situations, there is a post-death procedure. It is called as probate. What is a probate? Basically, you give the will of a person to the court and you ask them to certify it. You ask them to say that, okay, this is the this is a valid will and it is correctly executed. This process is called as probate. In situations where a probate is not required by law, the executor can directly start implementing the changes based on the will and the death certificate. And lastly, there are some other legal formalities which are optional, but if you do it also, it can be of use. So registration of will is a common concept which has a lot of questions. So a lot of my clients ask me, कि registration compulsory hai kya? If a will is unregistered, is it still valid? The answer to this is very clear. The law does not say that registration is compulsory. Even if I just pick up this piece of paper and I just write down my will and I sign it and two witnesses sign it, it is still a very valid will. Okay. However, if there are some benefits of doing a registration. If you're getting a will registered, it means that you will have to go to the registrar's office. Same way as you go for, your property document registration. So if you're going to that office, if you remember, there is a video recording which happens. There is a government officer who will ask you, are you, being forced to do this? They will ask you questions. What are you doing? Why are you signing this, etc. So अगर ये सब चीजें हमने registrar office में जाके की है, it means you have a government officer who is a witness and there is a video recording of the entire process. So some of the grounds on which objections can be raised are out of the picture. Nobody can say that this is a fraudulent will. If the person has appeared before a registrar, you can't say that the person never signed the will because there is very clear evidence for it. Okay. And you can't say basically that it is not properly executed because again, only if everything is in place can you register the document. There are some situations where I do suggest that you do not register a will. There are some reasons for this. And again, it is a very case-to-case basis. So do not take this as a direct suggestion, whether or not to register a will. Once you register a will, if you want to make a change to your will in future, अगर आपको कोई भी modifications करने हैं, the next will also has to be registered. That is compulsory. A will which is once registered is going to be treated as the last will unless the next will is also registered. So a compulsion aa jata hai that every time I want to make a change, I have to make sure I go and register it. Okay. And it might end up having cost implications also. So of course, nothing is free. Yes, it might be a nominal charge, but you have to keep in mind what your family situation is. If there are some sort of conflicts which are expected, only in such cases, registration becomes much, much more recommended. Otherwise, in some cases, it is okay if there is no registration as well. Next, I'm going to address a very burning question which a lot of you all might have, that if you have nomination, do you still need to make a will? And the answer is a very, very big yes. even if you've made nominations for all of these, whatever instruments you're able to see on screen, आपने housing society में भी nomination किया है, your bank accounts have nomination, mutual funds have nomination, everything we may have nomination, still you need to make a will. And why? There is a difference between nomination and will. The purpose of nomination is to provide an immediate custodianship, immediate access or custody of the assets, right? If it's a bank account, for example, if I was the bank account holder and there is no other joint holder, if I pass away, nobody can access the account, correct? I can't come back and sign checks, right? So in my absence, a nominee is going to take immediate custody of the asset so that it doesn't become out of reach. Okay. The purpose of a will, on the other hand, is comprehensive distribution of all assets to the intended beneficiaries. Legal standing of a nomination is that eventually the nominee may be required to transfer all the assets to the legal heirs, either as per the will or as per the succession laws. So just because you have nominated one person, it does not mean that all the assets will go to that person. The assets might go to that person if that person is coincidentally also the beneficiary as per your will or as per the laws. But if these two people are different, your legal heirs can go tomorrow and ask the nominee to transfer the assets to them, and the nominee has to do it. Okay. And the legal standing of a will is that, of course, if it is properly executed, a will is legally binding and it supersedes and goes over and above all nominations in most of the cases. Okay. The exceptions, as you can see in the next point, there are two main exceptions. In insurance, in certain types of insurance policies, there is something called as a beneficial nominee. Okay. So if it falls within a certain set of family members, and similarly, even for EPF, जो PF होता है, Employee Provident Fund, even for that, there are some family members or beneficial nominees who might have a right which goes over and above the will also. Okay, so these are the only few exceptions. However, you still need to make a mention of these in your will. Okay. On the other hand, a will covers all assets and includes everything, including all the assets where nominations are already made. So nomination is not the end. Nomination is part of the process. It helps to get access to the assets, but eventually the nominee has to transfer it to the legal heir. Your best case scenario is कि आपके जो भी beneficiaries है as per the will. If I want my bank account to go to my daughter, for example, okay, if I have put her name in the will and if I also put her name in the bank account as a nominee, that is my best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that there are two very different people and then they end up having a dispute. Next, maintenance. Now, nomination happens at each and every asset level. If you want to make a change to your nomination tomorrow, you will have to update it in every bank account, every mutual fund, every demat account, your society office and share certificate, etc. Whereas a will is a more comprehensive document. So if I want to make a change to my will, it will happen in one place. All I have to do is destroy the previous will and make a new will. Okay. So please understand and please speak to any and everybody that you care for. Yes, nomination is important. I'm not saying do not make nomination, but even despite having a nomination, you still need to have a will in place. Otherwise, the personal laws which I discussed earlier, Hindu law, there's a separate law applicable to Muslims, there's a separate law which is applicable to Christians and Parsis. Those laws will decide who the asset ultimately goes to. Some families might have been lucky that disputes have not started right now. So you might say that, but in my family, nominee ko sab assets transfer ho gaya and we are very happy. You might have been some of the lucky few, but you do not know what situation is going to exist after you are no longer in this world. And the only time when you have control over anything is while you're still alive. Next, this is something I want to quickly touch upon. So while we talk about making a will for assets, you also need to plan for guardianship for minor children. If you have young kids in the family, both parents need to sit and discuss this, that if something happens to both of us, okay, who is the person who will look after the kid? Okay, and what are your preferences as co-parents? Next, identifying candidates. Now, earlier it used to by default be either grandparents or an aunt or an uncle, but now with changing social structures, there are a lot of times where I might prefer a very close friend of mine to become a guardian to my child instead of a parent or a parent-in-law or my siblings. Okay. What is important is that they need to share your values and parenting philosophy. So while you might want somebody to become a guardian, if you know that that person is not really in that frame of mind where they can take care of a child, please do not opt for them. Next, assess their suitability. So whether they are willing to do it, whether they are financially stable, what are their existing family dynamics, and their physical capacity. The instinctive answer that most of my clients give me when I ask them that who will be a guardian to your kids if both of you are no more, they instinctively say grandparents. Okay, but you have to understand that grandparents are obviously at a much more advanced stage. They might be physically a little less active or a little bit at a disadvantage compared to younger people. So you need to keep that in mind. Also, establish alternatives. Have multiple people in mind that, okay, if this person either refuses or is not able to fulfill the responsibilities, then who is my backup? And testamentary guardianship. So this is legally valid till the child reaches 18, but there can be provisions for continued support. So in your will, you can make a mention of who you want should be the guardian for your kids. Okay. You are allowed to make that provision in your will. If you don't appoint a guardian and tomorrow, if God forbid something happens to you and your spouse both, then the court is going to determine who the guardian to your child is going to be. So again, this all comes back to the same thing, retaining control over your life, okay, and the life of your family. Why do you want to let the court decide who should raise your child? Okay. Just because you're getting into these discussions, it doesn't mean that you're planning for doom. It doesn't mean that you're a pessimist. It doesn't mean that you're inviting death. It just means that you care enough about your family and your kids to have these things in place. Now, what are the consequences of dying without a will? There could still be situations where a person has either not had time to make a will or the person refuses to make a will. There can be family disputes. Okay. So we discussed, I'll just take one example. If as per the law, okay, in the absence of a will, the assets are to be divided between the wife and two kids, for example. Maybe one of the kids is financially more dependent on the parent. Okay. Or maybe both kids are independent and only the spouse, only the wife needs to be taken care of financially. But because there is no will, the law will say that all three of them should equally inherit the property or the assets or investments. In this case, if the two kids refuse to give the property, refuse to hand over their rights to the mother, the spouse, the wife that I'm talking about, is going to be at a disadvantage, or they are going to have to get into some sort of a court battle. There are times where one or more children may have been taken care of financially and now they are leading their independent lives, and there is one child who's taking care of the parents in their old age and who's taking care of all financial responsibilities. It becomes unfair to that child to have to share with the other siblings simply because you didn't want to make a will. Okay, if you still want to distribute it equally, it's fine, it's your choice, but you retain that control, not the law. Next, asset freezing. So in the absence of a will, and if there is no clarity, if there is no nomination, and if there are disputes, basically all these investments are stuck till that time. Okay, recently, I think in July, there was an article that I had come across which said that some 67 or 65,000 crores worth of bank deposits are stuck. They are just frozen because nobody is claiming it. Okay, so not having a will and nominations and all in place and all of it being in sync basically leads to freezing of your assets and your family can't use it. I mean, if your family is not able to use your assets after you're gone, you might as well spend it while you're still alive. Next, financial burden. There is an increasingly higher chance of incurring higher legal expenses to sort out court battles and family disputes in the absence of a will. Why do you want to, get your family to go through this kind of stress? These are things, again, we are not going to go into too much detail, but wills are not the only thing which help you to plan for, help you with estate planning. You can make use of trusts, you can make use of gifts, you can make use of power of attorneys in different situations. So very specific situations where there's a very big asset base involved. There is a lot of wealth involved, or there are too many members in the family, or maybe there are minor kids, there are kids with special needs, there are very old people. Maybe there are situations where some family members are in India and some are not in India. So there is cross-border inheritance. There are some cases where the country where the other family members are living have a very punitive taxation system. In all of these situations, these other tools, which is trusts, gifts, power of attorney, can help you to minimize the stress, maybe sometimes also reduce your taxation and expenses, and have a seamless transfer of assets. Okay. So I think I'm just going to quickly look at the chat box. I have sort of compiled generally what the common questions are, but if I'm able to see something different, 1 second. Okay, so somebody has asked a very nice and important question. Can we have an open discussion in the family before drafting will so that all members are on the same page? This is actually one of the healthiest ways to have this discussion. I'm not saying it works every time. It really depends on your family dynamics. But if all your family relations are okay, if there are no conflicts or fights and you feel that everybody is cooperative, it might help to have a discussion, or at least informing them. You need not ask them what to do. You can just tell them that this is what I'm planning to do. Somebody has asked, should a will be made only for assets or also for medical contingencies? So there is a separate document which is called as a living will. Okay, it's like a medical directive. If you have seen in any movies or TV shows, abroad, there is something that they call as an advanced medical directive, where you have already mentioned what your wishes are with regards to what kind of treatment you should be given, whether you should be put on life support system, whether aggressive treatment should be used, etc. So there's a separate document. Making this as a part of the will won't make sense, because a will ideally comes into the picture after a person passes away. Okay. Another thing which you can do is, in cases of extreme sudden medical changes, there are people who might be struck with some diseases which make them physically or mentally incapacitated. Yeah, so suddenly somebody goes into a coma. In such cases, you can have something called as a conditional power of attorney in place. What this document means is, while I'm in good health, I'm writing down a document, I'm mentioning all my assets, and I'm saying that if something happens to me on medical grounds and I'm not in a position to make financial decisions, I'm not in a position to sign, I can't go and visit registrar offices, etc., I'm appointing this person to take care of my financial affairs. So you can do that instead. Somebody has asked about whether wills are applicable for self-acquired properties. So self-acquired properties or properties which you have inherited by way of a will, or properties which have been gifted to you, all of these can be made as part of the will. The only thing where a will not have an impact is something which is called as ancestral properties. All of us within our families have that one plot of land or one haveli or one farm somewhere in a village where there are some 40, 50 joint members of the family. 6, 7 generation onwards, that property has been passed on. So for such properties, a will is not applicable. There, the distribution of assets happens only on the basis of succession laws. Otherwise, you can add all your properties. How do you decide mental health? So that is the next question, and very good question. There is something which is not mandated by law, but we do suggest our clients to make use of this, especially if the person making the will is very old. So what you can do is you can get a medical fitness certificate from your family doctor, who is going to assess you. They will check your basic, like your vitals. They'll ask you some questions to make sure you are in a correct mental capacity. And they will give you that medical certificate, which you can attach to your will, which states that as on this date, you are in good physical and mental health. Okay. Some people go one extra step also. What they do is they video record while they are signing the will. Okay. So while it is not a primary proof, if the will goes into dispute in future, this can be one of the additional proofs that can be disclosed. Next, can an executor be a beneficiary? Yes, the person who is the executor can be one of the people who is actually inheriting something. However, your witnesses need to be independent. Okay. The people who are witnesses to your will, they should not be inheriting anything from the will, and their spouses or kids also should not be inheriting anything. Why? Because there is a conflict of interest. If my husband stands to inherit something from another person's will, and if I am the witness and I'm saying, okay, yes, this will is valid, I have a very clear conflict of interest. I have an interest in my husband inheriting that property. So your witnesses need to be completely independent, but an executor can be somebody who is inheriting something under the will. Is a notarized will at par with a registered will? No. A notarized will is not at par. A registered will is definitely, it definitely has lesser chances of being objected to. Okay. Some people prefer to do notarization of wills also. It really depends on case to case, but it is not as watertight as a registered one. Can you please, okay, somebody is asking what in case of nominee, who holds more power? So I've already, I think, answered that whoever is inheriting the property under a will, or in the absence of a will, whoever is the legal heir, as per those 3-4 different laws which I mentioned, that person has a higher, not power, but that person has a bigger right than a nominee. Okay. So the nominee has to hand over those assets to the legal heirs. Somebody is asking if it is required on stamp paper. No, there is no stamp paper needed. You can use a plain paper. It can be handwritten. It can be typed as well. It is better if you sign at the bottom of each page, because what happens is if somebody has a bad intention, it takes them like a minute to sort of switch documents, okay? Especially if it is a printed will. So it helps if you put page numbers and you put signatures at the bottom of each page. Okay, I'm just seeing. Somebody is asking what is the difference between a gift deed and a will. So a gift deed is basically you making a document and gifting an asset to somebody else while you're still alive. A gift can happen only when the person is alive. Okay. And a will is a list of instructions about who should get your assets after you pass away. So during your life versus afterwards. Can a will registered duly be challenged? Yes, okay, and this is very, very important. Thank you for asking this question. Only because you register a will does not mean that there cannot be any dispute. It can still be challenged. Only difference is, if you recollect in one of the previous slides, I said there are a few grounds on which objections can be raised. Okay, so the only benefit of having a registered will is some of those grounds get eliminated. Nobody can say that this is a fraudulent signature because the person has himself or herself visited the registrar. There's a video recording. The government of the employee of the registrar's office has seen you come and sign it. They have countersigned it. Okay, so those kind of objections go away. But other objections, like the person was under some sort of pressure from the other family members, or the person was not in good mental health, like there are some mental health issues when somebody is lucid for some time and at some other times they are not. So these kind of objections can be raised. How many of them will hold up, that again depends on when the probate procedure goes on. There are some objections which can be straight away complied with and they are out of the picture, but if some other objections continue, it turns into then a civil case. It's like a court case then. How effective are online will writing tools? Are they legally binding and are they even required? As you mentioned that even a simple written document is valid. See, now online will writing tools, if you just look at it from a concept point of view, if you go to a person who helps you make a will, or you go to an online platform that helps you make a will, okay, the drafting bit is more or less the same. If you're talking about how the actual document exists, as per the laws of our country, it needs to be like, it has to be like a physical document which has to be signed. So any other platform which tells you otherwise, I would ask you to sort of question them twice, share what law allows them to do this, and accordingly proceed. What about digital assets? Okay, that's a very good question. So we are not just talking about your net banking accounts and bitcoins and all of those things. We are also talking about intellectual property. You might have websites, you might have social media accounts, etc. You can mention all of those also in your will. So whenever we also talk to our clients, of course, we ask them, is there any intellectual property that you hold? It could be a trademark, it could be a patent, it could be like somebody has asked a Bitcoin account or any other online assets. All of these can be written and mentioned for sure. And even when the will goes for probate to the court is not going to get involved in which assets are there. They will ask you to list it, but they will not go and check whether, for example, whether your Bitcoin platform is accepting a will or not. The court will simply just say that, okay, this is valid and we are approving it. Okay. Then you will have to go and sort of implement all of these different distributions with each of those authorities or each of those companies. So your best case scenario is you make a will, you write down which asset goes to whom, and your nominations should exactly mirror that. Okay. What happens in that case is assets where there is no need to disclose the will, you can just get it transferred to the nominee and they can move ahead in their life. Because you know that tomorrow, even once the will is sort of coming into effect, the same person is going to get that asset. So that is a secondary exercise that we do after a will is made. Okay. That we ask the client to do a hygiene check and sort of review and update all of their nominations. Okay, sorry, I'm not. There are a lot of questions coming in. I'm trying to pick the different ones. Okay, somebody's asked, do I need to share my will ahead of time with the executor, and any recommended way of transferring this document? See, you are not legally required to share this document with anybody. Okay, neither the executor nor I mean, of course, the witness will see you signing the document and they will also sign on it, but you don't have to hand the document over to anybody. However, from a practical standpoint, it helps if the will is accessible to somebody. Now, this somebody can either be the executor, it can be one of the beneficiaries, it can be your lawyer, or maybe your financial advisor, or your CA, or any other trusted professional. There is no standard correct answer to who is the best person. For example, if there are disputes within your family, it might not be a good idea to hand over the document to one of the family members. Then in that case, you hand it over to a third party who is going to be impartial. And what is the recommended way of transferring this document? See, it has to be easily accessible. So don't put it, for example, in your bank account locker where you are the only holder. Okay, because nobody can access that locker unless and until the transfer of the asset has happened. And in the absence of a nomination, your will is the document which will help you to transfer the locker, transfer access to the locker. So share it in a place where it is easily accessible. Maybe as a family, you can have one locker which is operated by everybody, or one designated cupboard or folder in your house where you put all these important documents. Or like I said, you can hand it over to a trusted professional. Can a beneficiary be an NRI? Yes, a beneficiary can be an NRI. You might want to check the tax implications, because in a lot of these other countries, there is inheritance tax. Okay, so your beneficiary, once they inherit the assets, they might have to pay tax on it. So in that situation, you need to check with your estate planner whether it, and your CA, of course, whether it makes sense to gift the asset, or whether you should just keep it as part of the wills. Somebody's asked about multiple copies of the wills. Ideally, you should not do that. Ideally, you should always have just one original copy of the will. What happens is, in some rare cases where either there is some mischief which is done with the document, or by mistake you have created, like, it's not an exact copy. In that case, there is a problem. There should be only one last and final will which exists. Okay, so ideal cases, as an estate planner, I would not advise you to have multiple copies, even if it is the exact copy. Have one copy and leave it with somebody who is going to sort of do the needful. What I'm going to do is, okay, I'm now going to just go through some of the common questions. I think we are already overshooting time. I'll take 3 of these common questions which I've mentioned, and then maybe we can wrap it up, I'm of course going to share my contact details of LinkedIn and all, so we can always connect post the session. But I want to cover these few important questions. One is, how often should I update my will? Okay, like I said, will making is not a one-time exercise. Okay. Ideally, every 3 to 5 years is somewhere you should at least have a relook at it. You need not update it, but at least go over it. Or if there are major life changes, birth of a family member, death of a family member, marriage within the family, including your own, any changes in big assets, like if you buy a house or you buy an office, you buy a farmland, something of that sort, these are triggers where you should definitely go and update your will. Having said that, you don't have to update it every time you make a new investment, like bank deposits, mutual fund stocks, those keep on changing. So you don't have to every time update it. There are certain clauses which can be mentioned which cover any additional assets which are not listed specifically. But for bigger assets like a house or other property, you should update your will. What assets should be included in my will? Any asset which is standing to your name, or if there are assets which are in the process of getting transferred to your name. See, there are two objectives to this will. One, of course, is the legal formality that it should get transferred. But the second and more important thing is that your family should know what assets you already hold. Okay. Money management and money discussions within household is still unfortunately not very common in India. Okay. So imagine you pass away and your family just doesn't know where all your assets are. Again, it's a waste. Your assets get locked, the family suffers. So any assets which you hold, you can in fact also write the holding patterns, that in this account, this person is the joint holder, this person is the nominee. Make it as detailed as you want, but mention all your assets. How do I choose the right executor? This is something I've already covered. Somebody that you trust, somebody that you know is going to look out for the beneficiaries of the will. I answered one of the questions also, that one of the beneficiaries also can be the executor. Like, there are no direct conflicts, but there could be subtle stress within the family if there are 3 kids, for example, and you've given more assets to one person. Okay, and that person is only the executor. While the executor doesn't have any specific rights, they just have to still follow the will only. Within the family, there might be some stress. So that's a call that you can take, but it is allowed if the beneficiary is your executor. What are the costs involved in creating a will? So one is the drafting expense. So there are multiple ways. One is that you just sit and write your own will. Second is you either approach a lawyer or an estate planner who is going to help you to draft your will to make sure that some of the common mistakes are not made. And basically, it's a professional guidance. So in that case, whatever the drafting charges are, this again can really vary across the board depending on the person's practice. So that is the first cost. Second, if you decide to register a will, okay, then there are registration costs. So even for registration, there's a standard registration cost, plus there are some additional costs involved in terms of certain scanning charges payable, certain other like if there is a person involved, like an agent or somebody who's helping you, then they will have their own fees, etc. Can I write my own will or do I need a lawyer? Writing your own will is better than not having a will at all. Okay. But a lawyer or an estate planner or an advisor who helps you with all of these things can help you to make your will a lot more watertight and effective. And how do I handle international assets? If you hold assets outside of India, you also need a will in those particular countries. Okay. You might mention these assets in your will. There is no restriction against that. But my suggestion to all my clients is always to consult an estate planner or a lawyer within each of those countries. Okay. Understand what the local laws and rules are, and accordingly have wills in each of the countries. And yeah, I think that's it from my end. You all have been a very nice audience. Thank you for sparing the time and being so patient.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks for taking time and speaking at the webinar. Your insights, expertise, and presentation truly made a lasting impact on our audience. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.